When you look at the women's division, it's very interesting in this regard. We went from no division. And then once you form the divisions, you got to form the champions. So over a period of time, we had no champions. And then you've got the champions, and now you're in a major battle for figuring out who the contenders are. I mean, the women that are on top have separated themselves from the pack. If you look at the Bullet and you look for a contender, the first thing you look for is who can push the Bullet. Who can give her a struggle and make for a compelling fight? You're left with, okay, take that one off the board. Who deserves a chance at the Bullet? And then you're left to default back to go, who wants to take on the Bullet? Look, that's a very real thing. And I don't know that there's a negative in that. I would argue even that Gilbert Burns has done that within the welterweight division. Not only deserving it and becoming the number one ranked guy, but also the right attitude and saying, hey, I'd really like an opportunity here, and I don't need to see anybody else saying that. Boom, done. You got it. I mean, right? It's a job interview. It is a job interview, and sometimes you're going to have a whole bunch of really good candidates, and you're going to have to battle it out and try to get the nod. And sometimes you're the only guy that shows up. I mean, there's something very real to that, whether people want to accept it or not. This is a volunteer army. Nobody is drafted. A hand goes up, and there's only one hand. Boom, you're in. But we are really seeing that as a whole with the women's division. I mean, let's just go through it. Talked about the Bullet already. So good. In many ways, more dynamic even than Amanda. Can you believe that? I mean, more dynamic. We saw them fight. I'm not arguing what we've already seen not once but twice. I am telling you, though, the Bullet, far more likely, who's going to break your arm on the ground? Who's going to put you in a triangle choke or a guillotine? You got to worry about that, not just blunt force. Bullet. So if you're looking for who's going to give her the biggest struggle, I mean, look, that's a tough sell right there. And the same thing goes for Amanda, not only in one division, but twos. And I would argue Wei Lee isn't far off from that. We've seen that Joanna, soon to be champion again, perhaps, is the only one that can even get out of the first round with her, let alone push her, let alone grab a round or two. So Wei Lee's at a pretty good spot in the short term. I would encourage the Bullet, though, not to fall for some of the pressures being put on her to go and find a way to fight Amanda again. Whether that's Amanda comes down or she goes up, I would encourage her to stand her ground right there at 125, take on all comers. And yeah, you might have some fights that get people's attention, you might not. Well, that's everybody that's dominant. That's a very real thing. But I do also think a very real thing is Wei Lee coming up to 125. She's very strong. And she's very aggressive, and she's very greedy, Wei Lee. She's a competitor, just like the Bullet, just like Amanda. She wants it all. She wants all that hardware. Champ's a thing now. Didn't know it was. Okay, great, then I'm going after that. I think that that's very real. I think that Wei Lee is probably going to have business with Joanna sooner than later. But I also think that Wei Lee versus the Bullet is far more likely than Amanda coming down to 125 and contesting for that belt. And I think it makes more sense than the Bullet going back up to 135 and trying something that she's already tried twice. I think I'm a little light on that one. I get where that's competitive. It was competitive the first two times. I just don't know that that's needed. There's a reason you have weight classes. If the Bullet is so good that she has to leave her weight class and do something that isn't even naturally comfortable for her just to find a way to have competitiveness, I don't think that you would push her in that direction. I think that's where you would say, hey, Bullet, good job. You've done an incredible job. And you found the right weight class. Demetrius Johnson went through that. Demetrius Johnson was a great fighter at 135. He was the best fighter in the world at 125. Look, finding your weight class is a real thing. Once you find it and you clean it out, go clean it out a second time. That's somebody else's problem. But I am not seeing a number of these champions being called out right now. I think that that's a little bit troubling. And I do realize that Cynthia has now emerged. I realize that Joanna Calderwood is emerging and would like that chance with the Bullet. I'm not seeing people calling out Amanda, and they've got two different divisions to do it in. I'm not seeing that happen. I'm not seeing people call out Wei Lee. I'm not seeing people calling out George Masvidal. George Masvidal is standing over here looking for something to do. Why am I not seeing people call him out? He is a champion. He is a main eventer. He is a top draw. Why is George's job so hard right now? Everybody's calling Conor out, but I'm not seeing Conor give anybody else the nod. It just seems to be one of these weird things. I mean, the call out of who's next is very important. That's where the job interview begins. How many people are going to apply for the job? Okay, 3 or 4, maybe you laugh 1 or 2 off and you're condescending, you hurt their feelings, and you start to narrow down the field. I mean, there's a reason it's called the fight business. And yes, a big part of that is you hurt somebody's feelings, you upset them. They have an ego. They then come forward for that ego, and they come with their fan base behind them. That's how you get these things done. Not reinventing the wheel, this is how these things get done. But sitting out and saying, here's what I want, as opposed to here's who I want. Here's who I want is a much easier story to tell exponentially than here's what I want. Totally different. I would encourage you to go in that order. Getting what you want is a lot easier after we establish who, and we can then analyze how many people are going to be interested in that contest. It sure makes the what a lot easier. I feel as though many things are going out of order right now, and I do miss the good day. I do miss the way it used to be. When people wanted that main event shot, they wanted that opportunity. They didn't care what the odds said against them. I'm here to show you I'm going to do things different. The Felicia Spencer attitude, if you will. Anybody, whatever it takes, bigger fight, bigger draw, let's go out there, let's test. I'll train for it, I'll prepare. Let me bring what I've got against what they got, and we can all live with the winner. We shake hands when it's done, we walk away, and then we look for the next challenge. It's just a very refreshing attitude. And you've seen how well that has served Felicia Spencer. Just to give you a recent example, you're seeing how well that attitude has served Gilbert Burns. This is sport. This is competition. Who wants to do it? Who is willing to do it? They have a tournament on a Saturday. They want to call it a state championship. Okay, great. You show up and only 2 other guys showed up. 1 other guy shows up. Nobody else shows up. You win it by default. You're going to hold that against the guy? Here are the parameters. Here is how we are going to crown this. Here's how we are going to decide who the best is. We're going to have an open weigh-in. We're going to do an open bracket. We're going to contest it starting at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. Okay, great. If you don't show up, if you're not willing to go show up, then you are not eligible to be crowned the champion. It's as simple as that. And that's not new. That's not a new phenomenon to sport. Any kind of sport. Not this, to any kind of sport. Nobody gets forced to go play for this team or forced to try something. You've either got the courage, you see something within you, and you would like to be recognized for it. You would like to win championships, which means winning titles. You either want to do it or you don't. And there's no wrong answer. Just take yourself out of the field. I know plenty of guys that for whatever reason didn't want to walk outside. No problem. You now don't win this match. It's as simple as that. No problem. But to make believe that you can price yourself out of a sport while maintaining bravado, you're wrong. Playground rules still apply to the pros. There's all sorts of excuses used on the playground. No problem. Just means you don't want to do it. We're not bullies here. We're not going to pick on you, force you to do it. No problem. Starts with volunteer. Who is volunteering? That's how every job starts. Who would like to do this? If you're that guy that wants to be the scumbag and doesn't put his name in the hat, but then sits around and tells everybody, well, I could have done a better job than that guy. You didn't step forward and do it. You didn't take step number 1. How can you possibly make that claim? And how can you have people so foolish to then pat you on the back? Oh, yeah, no, we know you could have. No, you couldn't have. No, you could not have. And no, you are not eligible. Who do you want to fight?